The following is brought to you by Bleacher Report. If you guys want to check out my live post-game reaction show, make sure to have the Bleacher Report app downloaded and ready to fire up right after the game. You'll find me in the Chargers section. Bolt up.
Yo, the Bolt fam. It's the director. Chargers fans. Holy cow. What a roller coaster of emotion. From the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, I experienced anger, frustration, despair, and at the end, utter disbelief and joy as the Chargers would survive a game versus, let's be honest, a pretty competent AFC West rival in the Denver Broncos. Final score, 23-20. The Chargers would add another win to their win column, not only in just the terms of the season, but holy cow, this team is 3-0 in the division. We're going to talk about how significant that is here in just a minute as we relive the epicness that was the Chargers' victory over the Denver Broncos. Guys, this is one of those games that, as a Chargers fan of so very many years, feels like one that we were going to lose. I am no stranger to the Chargers finding a way to lose a game that they should have won. And it felt that way in the last very few seconds of the first half and then the opening first possession by the Broncos. Two big plays, and it felt like this game was over. But lo and behold, the Bolts would find a way to claw their way back into this one, finding Justin Herbert, MVP level Justin Herbert, Super Saiyan level Justin Herbert to help us win this game in the end. And the positive consequences to this one, man, are immeasurable. This is going to define the Chargers season, not just right now at 3-0, but who they may be at the end of the season now that they have a 3-game lead ahead of all their division rival opponents. Oh my goodness, let's jump into it, baby. Let's find some statage to oogle at and find times to reminisce in what was, again, a very stressful game, but one that, holy cow, carries so much for the future of this team. Let's get in here to stats and start off. Let's actually start off here with the defense and how they did in reflecting on how the Broncos would perform. Now, I'm not going to say that we wrote off Bo Nix. We kind of knew what to expect from the previous two games he played. He really struggled versus the Tennessee Titans, the worst team in football, as you know, considering they had the first overall pick last season, and then only put up 200 yards versus their team last week, which was the Colts, right? So we had to guess that maybe this wouldn't be the game Bo Nix goes off for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns. And I think at the end of the day, the Chargers defense did exactly what I expected them to do. 153 yards. He did have the touchdown, but 2 sacks taken as well. Really a testament to how well the Chargers were in terms of their defense and especially their coverage, man. Their coverage was absolutely outstanding outside of a handful of plays. And I think that's very well reflected on the receiving stats down here. At one point in the game, the only players with a reception were Cortland Sutton and RJ Harvey. I think that was at the entire first half of the game. Isn't that wild? At the end of the game, you would see a pocket full of players bring in receptions, including Kroll, who, if you guys didn't see the game, there was an insane ball batted in the air. It looked like the Chargers and Derwin James had done an incredible job at not allowing a catch, and instead it flung itself up in the air somehow and landed in the arms of Kroll, which, okay, you know, that one felt like, holy cow, we're going to lose this game because the gods of football have determined it so. Troy Franklin, who had a great week last week, was held to 2 catches and 8 yards. Mims on 1 catch for 4 yards. Dobbins for 1 on 0 yards. Insane. I thought that he had that one huge catch. Maybe they ended up counting that as a run if it was thrown backwards enough. Either way, the only player that really went off this week was Cortland Sutton. And that was mainly due to the long of 52 right here. You take that away, and he's closer to, 60 yards in the touchdown. Still a pretty good play, or a good game for him, all things considered. But the Chargers defense have shown week after week after week to be one of the toughest teams to throw the football on, and more recently as well, to run the football on. Let's go to the rushing stats here, man. J.K. Dobbins, of course, again, just like Cortland Sutton, you got to take away the one play in order to get the full picture of things. And I get it. You know, you want to count. You don't want to nitpick things to a point where it makes yourself look better. But the Chargers had 2 stumbles on this game that were very costly, and I don't think any of us are going to dispute that. Those 2 huge plays count towards the game, which obviously the Broncos almost won. But outside of the 41 yards, what are we looking at? It would be 42 yards for J.K. Dobbins, which is about where I expected. Bo Nix, who scrambled, 8 times, which is impressive for 33. That's something that the Chargers have been trying to figure out in terms of mobile quarterbacks. Then R.J. Harvey for 2. Again, you take away the 41-yard run, and the Chargers still look like one of the best rushing run defenses in football. So all in all, man, fantastic work by the Chargers defense. Let's actually go over to the Chargers side now and point out some of the individual efforts on the defense before we get into the offense, which, my word, we have some stuff to talk about, man. Some rookies have absolutely arrived. To finish out the defense, Derwin James had an incredible game. He only got credited for 1 sack here. I'm pretty sure he had 2, but either way, 4 tackles for loss. He had the 12 total tackles. He had a pass defended that ended up going to that tight end. That's why I mentioned it earlier. He was all over the place today. This was classic, vintage, elite level Derwin James play that we've all expected to see week in and week out. Absolute banger by Derwin James this week. Tony Jefferson had a couple of good plays, although I do think he was the one that got burned a couple of times on those deep shots. That is the one aspect I know that Jesse Minter's going to be talking a lot about in practice and in the film room this week, or how the Chargers bit on, I think it was a flea flicker and then later just a standard play action, where the safeties were just nowhere to be found for those huge plays to J.K. Dobbins and Cortland Sutton, mainly due to this guy down here, Alohi Gilman. You know, of course, these are things that we need to adjust. But outside of that, Dan Henley had another strong day. Tarheeb still had a really good tackle at one point in the game. Jamari Caldwell, he got the sack, right? I thought he got a sack. If not, he got a huge tackle for loss at some point. Let's see, where did he go? Caldwell. He had some big play where I was super impressed by him. We continue going down here. Let's see, who else logged a sack? Troy Dye got the sack as well. This was just a fantastic outing. And then Tier Tart, holy cow, Tart had a couple of big plays. Tart's becoming that bully on the line recently, hasn't he? You know, he's got the Kelsey moment. He's got some battages of the football at the line. He got a whole lot going for him. And then he had a huge hit on Bo Nix this game when he was scrambling on a pass to the outside or something like that. He took him down. Man, Tart is a mean man right there. So congratulations to the defense. Again, outside of the edge rushing position, which we're going to have to figure out at some point, the Chargers defense, absolutely incredible game. And the 2 big plays that we witnessed, the Chargers have been, funny enough, known for not giving up big plays like that for the most part. So it's one to pay attention to. But again, great day for the defense. Now let's get into what I'm going to consider my favorite part of this stream, the offense. Guys, we witnessed some breakout plays for a few players on this team. We talked about Justin Herbert. No surprise here. 300 yards, a touchdown. Sure, he had the interception, but let's remember that the interception was off of a tipped pass. So somebody out there gets credit for a Justin Herbert interception when more than likely it was due to, the ball being batted up in the air. Either way, Justin Herbert, fantastic day. Outside of the sacks, holy cow, the offensive line. We're going to have to figure something out. That was a disaster. Of course, the Broncos are the top, rushing team in football, so we were expecting, some pretty significant resistance, but that was a tough game for Justin Herbert. And despite being completely bullied and beat up and thrown around, at one point this is probably the craziest play of the game for me for the Broncos on defense, which again, they played a good game, credit to them. and their defensive line, there was one play in particular that I may never forget because of how crazy it was. There was a point where the Broncos defender on the line shoved Jamari Sawyer so hard that he went flying like 3 or 4 feet back in the air and into Justin Herbert to really blow up that drive for the Chargers. Crazy times we're living in. Chargers got to figure out that offensive line. But the real excitement, I believe, are coming from some of the rookie play. Okay, for one, Najee Harris, I wanted to take a second and acknowledge what happened and honestly just share my feelings about it, that it sucks. Najee, who has been one of the most healthy and available players in his entire career as a pro, went down with was likely a season-ending injury. Again, I don't know what it was. We haven't gotten any official word, but it looked like a non-contact injury from the replay. We can guess that we saw what pop, and it wasn't looking good. And literally my heart broke in 1,000 pieces. After clawing his way back from an eye injury from the firework accident in July to making a big impact in this game, he looked really, really good in this game. That sucks. And we're hoping that Najee Harris recovers and finds his way back to the field, hopefully with the Chargers, if not anywhere, next season. But that's a pretty big blow, okay? That being said, that leaves one man in particular as the lone back in this Chargers running back room to take over for the season, and I think we're in good hands. We finally found it. We finally saw it. We finally witnessed it. Omarion Hampton has arrived. The Chargers rookie running back, which I'm going to remind you guys because every once in a while I like to pat myself on the back, and in this particular about this one as well, because last season we hit so hard on the Ladd McConkey pick. That was the guy that I was all over during the offseason. We drafted him everywhere. I even made a mini movie about all the instances that we took Ladd McConkey. A lot of times we had to trade up to go get him. He was one of my favorite players last year. We hit so hard on that. This year, my Ladd McConkey was Omarion Hampton. And in very many instances, including maybe the biggest one, because there's a lot of pressure, a lot of social pressure in this experiment that we do here on Bleacher Report, which involves 31 other creators, 32 with me, a huge mock draft that takes weeks and months of preparation. It's live, it's a big deal on this platform, and I got to select for the Chargers in that draft. And then this year, I took Omarion Hampton. And the reason I'm saying that is not to brag, but more so to explain my faith in the young player taking over the Chargers backfield. This is a opportunity for the Chargers to really define their run game behind this young player. Hampton, who was an absolute beast at UNC, carried that offense even after Drake May, left for the NFL. This is the man to put your faith in and feel like you're in good hands. He would go off this week for 70 yards and a touchdown, but the real thing that I think a lot of people either didn't pay enough attention to or didn't listen to YouTubers like me about was his receiving ability. Take a look here, the top 3 receivers, Johnston, Allen, and then sneaking in at 6 receptions, which is more than Ladd McConkey, mind you, is Omarion Hampton. Omarion Hampton had more receptions and yards than Ladd McConkey this week. And this is, again, something I explained a lot in the offseason, in which Omarion Hampton, very capable receiver, and put up some good yardage at UNC in his final year, in his whole career out there. And when coming into the Chargers situation, we knew that he was being paired not only with Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman, a very good rushing situation for him, but also Justin Herbert, who has really shown to be a trusting quarterback when checking down to his running back. And that, of course, is proof because of the Austin Eckler years with him and on the team. Anyway, Omarion Hampton, he's going to go over 100 scrimmage yards. He's going to get his first touchdown as a rookie, and that is something to be very excited about, man. I feel like the breakout versus the Broncos in particular, who have a pretty tough run defense, a pretty tough defense altogether. We all saw how impressive that defense was. To have your breakout game in this situation, bravo. Remember, next week he plays the Giants. So the momentum, the confidence, the development, you're going to start seeing that layered every week that he plays. He's got a softer schedule for the next few weeks that he's going to be able to ramp up with, because you got to remember, the Chiefs defense, very tough versus running backs. The Raiders defense, maybe one of the best versus running backs this season so far. Now he gets an opportunity to start ramping up, and sooner rather than later, you're going to see wheels up, and he's going to take off, and everybody who drafted him in fantasy is going to be very happy. That's all I'm going to say. So Amari Hampton, welcome. Very excited to see the Chargers, even with Najee Harris going down, in very good hands in terms of their running back. The last guys I wanted to mention, we'll actually go through these guys before ending on the other rookie. Quentin Johnston, I don't know how much proof or how much more proof people need that QJ is for real this season. Every single week, and I'm going to go do it again, I post on Twitter, now accepting all Quentin Johnston apologies with an arrow pointing down. And I always get a lot of pushback. It's only one game, director. It's only 2 games, director. Well, now it's 3, and he's looked friggin' amazing in all 3 games. I think it's pretty safe to say that Quentin Johnston has officially arrived. He feels like the best receiver on the team right now, if I'm being honest. Keenan Allen, a close second. Ladd McConkey, who's still incredible, lumped in there as well. This team has weapons everywhere. So congratulations to Quentin Johnston. Congratulations to Keenan Allen. Welcome the freak back to LA. Holy cow, he saw his career stall out in Chicago. He made a decision to come back to the Chargers, and it feels like he never left. It feels like over the course of the next, I'm guessing he's going to stick around at least another year, maybe 2. He could end up being one of those receivers that stack up so much yardage and all that. He's going to become a legend in the league because of it. And this is very similar to guys like, my best example is Larry Fitzgerald. He played for a long time. Once Bruce Arians said, hey, move to the slot, keep playing, and it kept his career alive another 3 or 4 years. And now he's, a league leader in very many stats, certainly a franchise leader for the Cardinals. Keenan Allen's about to do the same thing with the Chargers. He says he's going to play till the wheels fall off. He's been absolutely incredible. Love Keenan Allen. Finally, the last couple of guys I want to talk about, Trey Harris, he's looked fine. Conklin, Fisk, these guys sneakily, dude. I mean, Fisk is a blocking tight end, so I don't expect much from him. But Tyler Conklin, who was one of those players that I was super jacked about at the top of the season, because, I mean, playing in very bad situations in New York with, Aaron Rodgers, and then before that, it's just not been good quarterback quality play for Tyler Conklin. He still looks really, really good. I felt coming to the Chargers with Justin Herbert that he would find the best years of his career so far. Nope. Haven't quite seen it. We saw a tight end screen maybe, that he dropped. We saw, it just hasn't felt very consistent for Tyler Conklin. And instead, this monster revealed himself in this game. Oronde Gadsden, who I don't think any of us expected to see very much action this week. Now, a lot of you will say, oh, director, it's 5 receptions for 46 yards. Let's all calm down. Did you guys see those receptions by Oronde Gadsden? Holy cow. His very first reception, I couldn't believe my eyes. He had a defender literally on top of him, dragging him down to the turf, and he somehow brought it in, got his feet down, and picked up, I think that play was a first down. My jaw dropped to the floor. I was like, who was that? And I saw the number 86. I was like, that was just Oronde Gadsden. Did anybody else notice that? And then I think the very next play, Herbert finds him again for, I think it was close to or another first down. And then 5 receptions later, he is the Chargers' leading tight end on the game. I feel like we may have just seen a shift at who the Chargers deem their tight end one from here on out. And this is a big, big deal. The things that made Oronde Gadsden special were his versatility. He lined up in the slot a lot at Syracuse. He lined up out wide. He had some of the best speed on the team. He had some of the best range. Like, his wingspan was ridiculous at 6'5". He is a monster when all things considered. Like there's many reasons why people considered him a sleeper in this draft. We may have seen the game that put him on the map as a trusted target for Justin Herbert. All I'm saying is I'm not going to be shocked if Oronde Gadsden ends as a tight end 1 for this team by a very large margin. And I'm not going to be the least bit shocked if we roll out with Oronde Gadsden as tight end 1 next week. Because, Tyler Conklin's not a bad blocking tight end. Tucker Fisk is also a very good blocking tight end. Having Gadsden be your featured receiving tight end is probably going to be in the cards coming here very shortly. So Oronde Gadsden, breakout game for him, breakout game for Amarian Hampton. Chargers offense behind Justin Herbert looks as great as ever. I don't know, man. It was a very, 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 very stressful but fantastic week of Chargers football if you're a fan. And I think, honestly, we've been put on the map as one of the most dangerous teams in the league. A 3-0 start. Literally mowing through all our division rivals, now going on to a softer schedule. We're playing the Giants, the Titans. We're playing the Dolphins, I think, at some point. There's a whole bunch of softer matchups on the way, and it feels like the Chargers, who really found their toughest tests in the first 3 weeks, are going to be raising some eyebrows as the season goes on. Lastly, to close out this stream, because I don't want you guys to forget this. I don't want you guys to let this moment pass you by, because it's a pretty big friggin' deal. Okay? The Los Angeles Chargers, in their win today versus the Denver Broncos, may have cemented themselves as AFC champions. Now, or AFC West champions. I'm not going to say that anything is in stone. I'm not going to say that, it's for certain. But going 3-0 is significant. Going 3-0 versus your division rivals is even bigger, right? If we go now to the standings, okay, understand that the Chargers in the AFC West, who are now 3-0, have 3 division wins. Look at the rest of the division down here. Excuse me, I'm going to have to turn off my camera here for a second so you guys can see this, okay? Look at the rest of the division. Raiders, 0-1. 0-1 Broncos, 0-1 Chiefs. We are the only team in the division to log a division win. You know how huge that is? You know how massive that is? That means even the Chiefs, if they wanted to catch us, they would need to beat division rivals 3 times just to tie with us, right? That tiebreaker. Not to mention that we have the win over them. And then on top of that, the Chargers will have more opportunities to log more division wins as the season goes on. It just makes the likelihood of the Chargers making the postseason and taking the West that much more likely. Before this game, it was something like a 53 or 58% chance that the Chargers would be the number 1 team in the AFC West. After this game, I don't even know what it is. It's got to be up there. So special times we live in, Chargers fans. We have not seen a team like this start since I think around 2009, and we've not seen a 3-0 start in the division since back in 94. Technically 93. You know what happened that season? Can anybody in the chat tell me what happened in 1993 with the San Diego Chargers, who beat their 3 division opponents in the first 3 weeks, which at the time I think the Seattle Seahawks were a part of? You guys want to know what happened that season? We would end up going to the Super Bowl, okay? Again, I'm not saying this all adds up to that. I'm not saying that, we're a shoe-in to be that Jim Harbaugh Year 2 championship squad, but we are definitely at a very, very good start. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub, or I should say follow here on Bleacher Report. We'll see you guys next week. It's Chargers Giants. And I think that one's going to be a good time. Take care, guys. Let me actually ask one more thing to the chat before we close things out. Who's got it better than us? Nobody. Let's get it, baby. Bolt up. All the way. All the way.